And today we're excited to present our project, YAE, or Ye's Game of Life. Our team includes Yasini Lavala, myself, Anna Awalinkar, and Eunseong Han. I served as the team leader in helping organizing the sprints and ensuring a hit on our milestones.
Our main objective was to create a smooth interface simulation of Conway's Game of Life, which is a classic cellular automation that uses both front end and back end technologies. We built the interface with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and handled server side logic with PHP and used MySQL for data storage. This project was about blending creative front end work with back end functionality into a single experience.
So here's how we split up our responsibilities. Eunseong worked mainly as the coder and programmer. Yasini served as our user representative, ensuring the app felt intuitive, and I handled testing and worked with the database, and we all shared the design duties.
Okay, this slide shows some of the dialogue and discussion we had while building the site. We collaborated regularly to, as you can see on the slides, to really divide up the tasks. And we also collaborated to troubleshoot and brainstorm when anybody was running through issues.
Okay, so for our entry point for the site, on the left we have index PHP, and it basically checks if the user is already logged in using session data. And if they are, it'll greet them and give them like links to the dashboard, the game, and give them an option to log out. If not, it asks them to log in or register. And then on the right, we have dashboard PHP, which pulls session history from the MySQL database for the logged in user. So we used prepared statements to fetch game session data like start time, end time, and generation count. This page gives users a summary of their previous games and links them to the main game or admin panel. So depending on their role.
Here's our authentication system. On the left, we have the login PHP file that basically starts a session and checks if the user is already logged in. And it also checks, like, depending on the role of the user, whether they are a regular user or if they are the admin. It redirects them to the appropriate dashboard and verifies the user's credentials using prepared statements as well. The register PHP that's on the right of the screen accepts a new username and it hashes the password using the password hash function for secure storage. And if registration is successful, the user will see a success message. If the user already exists, an error message will be displayed. And both of these pages rely on configuration or config.php for the database connection.
So these two files handle tracking and ending user sessions. So on the left, we have log session PHP, which gets called at the end of a game, and it checks if the user is logged in, and it collects the session's start time and end time and generation count from the front end, and it inserts the data into the game sessions table using a prepared statement. So if anything is missing or fails, it sends back the appropriate HTTP error. And on the right, we have the logout PHP, which simply just ends the session and redirects the user back to the login page.
Like I mentioned earlier, I talked a little bit about the config.php file. This file stores all of our database credentials and creates a connection using MySQL. And if the connection fails, an error message will be displayed. What's important about this piece of code is that almost every PHP page in our project relies on this file. This includes the login, the registration, dashboard, and so on. We used config.php to improve the connection setup anywhere we needed to talk to the database.
Okay, so this is where the main simulation happens. It's the game page. So on the left, you can see the HTML structure. We included a speed selector that lets users pick how fast the simulation runs. And then there are buttons for start, stop, stepping forward by 1 or 23 generations, and then also resetting. Below that is a drop down to load preset patterns like block, blinker, and glider. The status and generation sections update in real time. And finally, the main grid is dynamically generated in this container. And then on the right is a key JavaScript block inside game HTML. When the game starts, we save the start time. And then when the game ends, we run the log game session function, which sends the start time, end time, and generation count to our backend using the fetch function and posts it to log session PHP. We also handle speed changes here by updating the interval based on like user input. This file ties together the front end controls and the back end logging to track and manage a complete game session.
Our makeadmin.php is basically a file that helps with admin creation. It uses the password hash to securely store the password and inserts a new row into the users table with the role set to admin. We use prepared statements to prevent SQL injection attacks, and it gives a success or failure message depending on whether the user was created. This file also is used once during setup to make sure at least one admin exists in the system.
So then we have the admin dashboard PHP. And so this dashboard is only accessible to users with the admin role. And at the top, we check the session and redirect unauthorized users back to login. So the page can basically delete users and their session history. It can show analytics like top users by games played. It can list all the users and their info, and then it can show all the game sessions, including start and end times and generation counts. We used SQL joins to combine user data with session stats and grouped results by user. So at the bottom, we integrated chart.js to show a bar chart of top players by number of games played. And this makes the admin view more visual and informative.
For styling, we use the style.cs file, which controls how the life grid looks on the page. The hashtag grid selector sets the layout using CSS grid and defines the number of columns, which are 25, and their width, which is 20 pixels each. It also centers the grid and adds a light gray border for visual separation. The .cell class styles each cell individually. Borders are there to help make the cells visible. There's also a default white background to kind of give it more like a modern look. The .cell.alive class is added when a cell is alive in the simulation and it turns that cell green. These styles help us keep the game visually simple but clear and interactive for our user.
Okay, and then we have the two different parts of our JavaScript for this project. So on the left is react.js, and we use this to show a snapshot of the grid before and after the game. So it basically uses React to create and display the grid using a map function. And if the cell is alive, it's shown as green. If it's dead, it's gray. So we connected it to the main game using window.set before snapshot and then after snapshot. And then on the right, we have script.js, and this is where basically like the actual game logic runs. So with the next generation function, it checks each cell's neighbors and applies the game of life rules to figure out if the cell should live or die. So after updating the grid, it refreshes the visuals and updates the generation count. So the react.js handles the display, and then the script.js handles the game like itself.
Okay. So some future improvements that we could add to our web application would be adding the multiplayer mode, which allows multiple players to edit or watch the same grid in real time. The save and load game states, which would allow users to save a board and reload it later. We could also make it mobile friendly, so make the game responsive for phones and tablets. We could improve the speed control and step mode. For this, another feature we could add would be allowing users to step through the generations individually and to kind of be able to go back and forward as well, but stepping through each generation. Lastly, the theme and color customization, which would allow users to choose the colors or grid themes for better user experience.
Okay, so for our major test cases, we tested it in 5 main ways. So first, we made sure that the game instructions were clear and easy to follow. And then we tested the login and registration forms to make sure users could sign in correctly. We double checked that the game of life rules were actually like working and exactly what we were expecting. We made sure all the control buttons like start, stop, and reset worked pretty smoothly. And then lastly, we tested the admin panel to see if you could correctly manage users and their sessions.
Okay. We followed the Scrum methodology to stay organized and to complete our project. We had stand ups pretty much every 2 days where we would talk about what we finished and what we're going to do next, and also any problems that we ran into, especially when it came to the database because we weren't sure how to go about that. Anna was the scrum master. Yasini, was the product owner, and all of us were the developers. We broke the work into small sprints that lasted 2 to 3 days. At the end of each sprint, we reviewed what was done before moving on. Some of the biggest benefits that I got out of the Scrum methodology was being able to adapt quickly, and we were able to stay in sync as a team, and we were able to keep each other accountable through regular updates as well.
And that's our entire project. And now we're gonna do the demo. Thank you.
So this is demo of our Conway's Game of Life. So first I will register account. So let's say user 1 and you can log in here. And now you can see the dashboard here with the username and role, the player. And here's some session history, but you don't have any data yet. So we're gonna play game now. So this is the main interface for the Game of Life. So you can draw any patterns by clicking this grid here. So I'm gonna put some random thing and then I'm gonna start by click this start button and it's running. And you can also change the speed like this and make it slow. And you can stop by clicking this button. And you can also step forward by 1 or 23rd generation by clicking these two buttons. So if I press this one, it move forward 1 generation, and this one 23rd generation. And you can reset the game by clicking this reset button. And here's some patterns here. So block still live, this one does not change anything, so it just stays same because it's stable pattern. So I'm gonna stop this one. And then next one, oscillators, we have two. So the blinkers and the beacon. So the blinker, so these are, they just repeat their patterns infinitely. So it just repeat itself. So like this one, and then this one also just repeat. Yeah, you keep repeating. The glider. So this one moves diagonally one cell every 4 generations. So it goes this way. So I stop here, and here's some snapshot of it. So this one contains initial grid, and this one showed the final grid of it when I press this stop button. So reset it, and then I'm gonna just put some random things again. Okay, so start, and you can see the initial grid here, and if I press stop, you can see the final image of it, and you can go back to dashboard by clicking this button, and here's some session history that I just made. So it has start and end time with generations. So now let's look our admin page. So this is the admin dashboard. It has some analytics and stat and some info here. So for this graph, it shows top 5 players who played this game most. And this stat shows some minimum, maximum, and average of the generation. So here, these are all the users that registered. So here's user 1 that I just created. So yeah, 6, and then so let's see here. So admin played 11 games, so it has 11 game here because this admin played the most, so it's rank 1. And next user 2, 7, so here. And these are all the game sessions, so every user that play this game has all the info in this admin dashboard. So it has like start and end time and generation and the user ID. And you can also delete or ban the user. So let's do user 2. So user 2 is in here. So if I delete this one, then user 2 is gone here. Also not showing in here, and deleted here too. So this data is stored in this database. So there's 2 table users. So here's all the user information and game session table. It has all the info here of the game session. So when I delete this user, so let's see, in the user table there's like user 3, and if I delete user 3, this one here, and it will delete it here too. So new table, so user 3 is gone here, and also user 3 is not showing in here too. And we can go back dashboard, and it stored session history of this admin account. So this is our Game of Life project. Thanks for watching.